everyone, it's Sean. In this tutorial video, we're going to be walking you through how to build a table of contents. In the previous video, we started formatting our trade paperback softcover book. We learned how to put in large blocks of text into fluid text boxes in InDesign, and we set up some paragraph styles, a couple character styles to get the front page and the body copy sort of flowing. So let's just jump right in. So I'm going to jump back into our example, and here you can see is our table of contents. It's on page 7, it flows on to page 8, and it's pretty complicated looking, but it's actually not as hard as it looks. So to achieve this, we're going to have to jump back into our document. We're going to come up to page 1, and we need to make sure that there are 10 pages before our chapter page, before our first chapter starts. This is just to accommodate for all of the front matter that's going to have to happen in this book. So let's go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So for those of you playing along at home, your first chapter should start on page 11. I've obviously messed up here, so give me a second. Yes. Cool, let me just look. I'm on page 11, and there's my first chapter opener. I just had to delete one page. Sorry for the confusion. And now we're going to jump up to page 7, and we have a blank page to start working with. I'm going to jump into our working mode view instead of our preview view. I'm going to delete our primary text frame, and what I want to make sure is open before we even get going. If you're in your Subtle Art working folder, we can open up our Subtle Talk doc. There we go. I'm just going to minimize our body copy and have our talk doc open. So you can tell here there's a lot of information here. We're going to get to it in a second. I just want to make sure that that was there, ready to go. What we want to do is we want to come to Layout and go to Table of Contents. This is different from a table like you would see in Excel. Even though they're both called tables, they're not the same type of table. So be sure not to get the two tables confused. I know sometimes it gets me confused. Just wanted to throw that out there. So the first thing we notice when we when we open up this table of contents is it wants to have a title. The title for the table of contents is just going to be contents. It's what's going to appear at the top of the list, so we can just leave that there. And under style, you might be thinking, oh, do we have to create another style for this? Did we already have to do that? Well, you don't really have to. If we open up this drop-down menu, you'll see these are all the styles that we've already created. There's body copy, chapter, and chapter title. And now there's this new one called Talk Title. Talk stands for Table of Contents, and title is just going to mean that it's going to apply to the title, which is in this case the word contents. Now, if we come down here, there's a little bit more complicated information. It wants to know what styles are going to be in the table of contents, and you need to include your paragraph styles for this to work. So, table of contents really only tells you where the chapters are going to be in the book. And because we created a paragraph style called chapter title, we can add that over here. The style for the chapter title, it's going to be in the same style as our chapter title. For now, we can leave that. That's going to be fine. And everything else, we don't really need to worry about right now. So we can just hit OK. And now you get this little icon that's obviously like a text box wanting to be drawn out. We can create a text box that's the entire margin or the entire text frame. And we have a table of contents. It only has one entry, but it's a table of contents. So pat yourself on the back. You did a great job. We can all go home. I'm just kidding. We still have a lot more work to do. But if you notice, it's automatically numbered it at page number 11. That's pretty impressive. It knows that because it is trying to look and see where we've applied the paragraph style called chapter title. And if we had several chapter entries in here, it would know exactly where to look and find these things. Okay, that's super crucial. When you're setting up paragraph styles, you want to be really smart about it. If you have too many paragraph styles, things can get confusing. And if you set them up properly and you know that you have to create a complicated sort of element like a table of contents, it'll be a lot quicker to deal with in the future. So just to show you how dynamic this can be, if I go to page 11, actually I'm going to double click on page 10 and I add a page, and then we dropped our first chapter over to page 12, what I can do is I can come up here to page 7, I can single click on our table of contents box, I can go under layout, and I can update the table of contents. It says the table of contents has been successfully updated. You can hit OK, and oh, what do you know? It knows now that our title, or our first chapter rather, actually starts on page 12. I don't want that, so I'm going to Command Z it. I'm going to have to Command Z one more time to bring it back up to page 11. But yeah, that's how useful a table of contents can be if you have your document fully formatted properly. Now, unfortunately, because I'm only working with you guys on the first chapter of this book, I don't have the luxury of having everything pre-laid out and ready to go to show you how awesome a fully working table of contents can really be. So instead, we're going to have to fake this a little bit. What I want to do, though, is I want to come down to paragraph styles, and I want to create, well, we're going to work on formatting this first and foremost. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to change this over from Century Gothic to, sorry, Georgia. And we're going to make this Georgia regular. We're going to take this off of all caps. We're going to shrink this down to 11 should be fine. And we're going to track it in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Just so it looks more like proper type instead of actual titles. Wonderful. And what we can do now is we can change the style of the title. Actually, before we get into that, sorry, I missed one little step. So with this line still highlighted, we need to hit new paragraph style, double click on paragraph style 1, and we're going to call this talk body. We're going to hit OK. Cool. So now we have a table of contents title and a table of contents body. So you can see the difference between the two. With this guy highlighted under talk title, I'm just going to use our character formatting options up here instead of going into the actual paragraph style window. I just find it a little bit easier right now. So we're going to type in Century Gothic Pro Bold, or whatever sans serif typeface you guys chose. We're going to select it. I'm going to make it all caps. Sorry, all caps, not small caps. I'm going to lower the point size of this probably to 20. I'm going to track it out a little bit. And in this case, certain letters look more tracked out than others. So I'm using my arrow keys and the Alt Option button. The left arrow keys bring things closer to the left, right, further from the right. You get the point. I just find it quicker personally to use it that way. And we sort of have the beginnings of our table of contents. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to get rid of this really cool automatic sort of stylistic thing that's happening here. I'm just going to hit backspace. I'm going to hold off on hitting backspace. Let's undo that for now. And I'm going to go to Microsoft Word, and I'm going to start to copy our table of contents. I'm going to skip the line that says contents. It's not necessary. I'm going to highlight chapter 1, and I'm going to bring it all the way down to acknowledgements. Hit Command C. Now I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to hit Command V to paste it in. And for some reason, it wants to center it under talk body. Let's just hit double click on that and go under indents and spacing and change it to left. It wants to apply 1 inch. I don't want there to be anything there, so we can hit 0. Now it brings everything back up, and we can just decrease the first line indent there. Now this looks a little bit better. Basic character formats. I actually think this is going to need to be closer to 10. Yep. And you know what? While I'm at it, I don't like the way this looks in Georgia. It looks a little bit too busy for me, too many serifs to read. So I'm going to change this over to Century Gothic Pro, and I'm going to keep it at Pro Regular. And I'm actually going to bring the tracking in a little bit more as well. Let's leave it at 20. That looks much better. Sorry for the exercise in futility, guys, but you know, practice is practice. So now comes the point where we have to work on tabs. Tabs can be one of the most frustrating things in InDesign, even for experienced designers, and it can just cause a lot of headaches. But you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself again. Clearly, I haven't had enough coffee today. The first thing we're going to have to do before we start tabs is deal with this overset text. I just zoomed out so I can see the next page below. I'm going to delete this text frame here. I'm going to single click on our overset text, and I'm going to drag out a new text box that is the size of the margin or within the margins on this next page. All right, great. There we go. Now we have our second page of contents. And now we can get started on the dreaded tabs. So, what are tabs? Tabs are the thing that will let all of your numbers snap over to one side and look very consistently formatted all the way down the page. To get there, we can go up to Type, Tabs, and tabs will show up here. Now, for some of you, tabs probably just showed up anywhere on your screen and it's not really formatted anywhere. And this can be extremely confusing when you're working on tabs because you don't really understand what's going on. I'm going to give you guys a hint, and as long as you can see the top of your text box and your text box is selected and then you have tabs selected, whoops, I lied. If we have tabs selected, we can bring this guy up here and we can try and just sort of match it on up to the top of our text box, just like so. There we go. So this is the tricky thing about tabs. Sometimes and sometimes not. This magnet will be visible. It will, or be clickable, not grayed out like that. So I wonder if we have our text box selected here and we go up to Type, Tabs one more time. It still does not want to play nicely. See, I'm telling you, tabs is just one of those things. It can cause such headaches. But what you want to make sure is that 0 is aligned with the edge, as close to the edge of your text box as possible on the left, and that this window matches up on the right. And with this left justified tab selected, we can drag out, you know what I bet? Let's just select everything. Whoops, sorry guys. I just hit escape. I was trying to be fancy here for a second. Okay. Let's have our type selected. That's what does it. Okay. So you need to have your cursor placed with, or your sort of title, your little, like, you know, typing title here, placed and activated within the text box. Then you can click the magnet, it will automatically snap it, and it will automatically understand what type you're trying to adjust here. Okay, see what I mean? Tabs, it's crazy. So these arrows up here, they represent the justifications. Justifications or alignments, you can find them right up here. Left align, center, right align, spine, and so on and so forth. So what we have here is left justified, center justified, right justified, and so forth. It's justified to a decimal place. We do not need to worry about that. For the purposes of a table of contents, we're going to be using left justified. So what you can do is have left justified highlighted like so, and you want to grab into this middle bar, not the black ruler underneath, not the gray space on top, but this middle bar. And you want to drag out an arrow to a space that is going to be wide enough from, whoops, you want to drag it out to a space that is going to be wide enough from the edge of your text box that can support about 3 characters, because this book will have hundreds of pages. Okay, so I think that I would say about 4 4.25 looks about good. Cool. And now what we can do is we can take the tedious time of pressing tab on each page number. So with your title key on the left hand side of the page number, you can hit tab and it will bounce that page number over to, oh come on, don't play like that. Why you gotta be like this? Okay, so we're gonna hit tab we're going to hit tab one more time. No, not this time. Don't want to work. Okay. My Lanta. Okay, we're going to set this to about 4 1/4, we said. Lovely. We're going to we're going to hit tab. And our tab disappears again. Come on. Why are you acting like this? 4 1/4. Okay, I think I know what the problem is happening here. To solve it, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the entire table of contents. And we're going to highlight it down onto the other page like so. Perfect. Cool. We are going to scroll up. Be careful not to scroll too quickly because it might take you several pages north of where we have to be. Cool, just try and align that box up to the top. Great. And I know I want to use my left justification. I want it to be about 4 1/4 inches across the page. And now that has set a tab for all of our highlighted text. And we should be able to use tab to snap our page numbers across the page like so. I know this is tedious. It's also quite headache inducing. And if you don't really move slowly and take time to try and figure out what is causing your issues when you're creating tabs, then you can wind up with a pretty messed up sort of document like we were almost just about to have there. You obviously, like if you're someone like me who can get frustrated and then start moving too quickly when you're frustrated, it's something just to be mindful of when you're working with tabs and a really technical sort of aspect of a piece of design like a table of contents. Just something to be mindful of. So I'm just going through, I'm using my arrow keys, I'm pressing tab when I get to the outside of my numbers. And there we go. We have everything nice and tabbed. So for the next step, we're going to highlight all of our text again. We're going to click and drag up to highlight the other page as well. Second. There we go. Just highlighting up to chapter 1. And the next thing we want to set is this thing called a leader. A leader is the little symbol that carries over from the edge of the type on the left to the edge of the type on the right. And in this case, I just want it to be a simple dot. So I'm going to press dot like the period icon. I'm going to hit enter. And you'll notice the dot shows up. Some table of contents, though, they like to be, instead of a leader dot, they might like to be a underline. So to do that, you can highlight your text again. You can erase, making sure you've clicked in the leader dot field and not just hit backspace because you will delete your text. If you've clicked in your leader dot field here, you can put in a single underscore and hit enter, and it changes it to a line. So you can use any symbol you'd like here. For some reason, even if you wanted to use an arrow, so shift period to get the arrow symbol, you can use an arrow too. Totally up to you. Personally, I'm going to leave mine as a leader dot. And that, my friends, is how to format a table of contents. I think there's just a couple of tiny little formatting things that we could try and fix in here. We could put a soft return in the name of this but title, just because that looked really strange with it going so close to the edge. And other than that, I think that should cover the table of contents. Hopefully this wasn't too confusing for you guys. I know it can be difficult, but just try and move slowly if you're finding you're having problems with it, and go back and watch it a couple of times if you have to. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.